But at the end of the day, they still struggle to do that because their business model relies on people being single, even if they say that the app is meant to be deleted. So that's just sort of a marketing message. But at its very core, dating apps want you to be single so that you can pay and so that you can be frustrated. The friction is part of the experience that they are selling you, essentially, so that you can upgrade and help them make money. And we can also think about apps like Raya. Raya in the last year, I believe, made 23 million. That is a lot of money, even for a dating app that is exclusive. They're not making this money by actually connecting people together. That's not their sole sort of that's not what they're focusing on. Otherwise, people would not have sort of the nightmare stories that they do. You know, you can think of Bumble. Bumble is a unicorn, you know, it's done very well. And at the end of the day, you know, they've even been able to go public and things like that and be acquired. That's not because they actually are, again, connecting people in a way that removes friction. So what we can bring to the table, what we ideated last time is, what can we bring to the table that's different from what these other apps are doing, you know, these legacy dating apps? How can we do it differently? Can we do it in an interesting way where it's worth it to then come into this market? So without talking further, I think let's just jump into this session. What we're focusing on is PRDs and MVPs. It's not so much ideation. What I would really like to see from everyone is that you are actually writing your PRD or really, you know, taking notes and asking questions. The biggest thing about these sessions is the opportunity to ask questions, but also the quality of the questions you ask when it comes to, you know, things like trying to assess what the problem is and how you would solve the problem. Okay, any questions before we start? Awesome. Okay, so I will take the silence as a no. Okay, so first things first, why do PRDs matter? Now, I know you guys have probably read the material, but if you haven't, when you become a PM in practice, you will be required to write PRDs. If you don't know what that is, you probably should go back and read the modules and probably shouldn't be here, but be at the next one. But yes, PRDs are product requirement documents. What that means is just you outlining everything that the feature or the product should have. Usually you will be writing a PRD for a feature, not for a whole new product, because if you're employed, you will be employed by a company that probably already has their PRD for the entire product. So why do you want to write that? You want to make sure that everybody agrees, that the team is aligned. You want to make sure that everybody understands the goals. You want to make sure that you essentially take care of edge cases as well, which we'll talk about in a second. And you want to ensure that there are fewer meetings, less friction, that the team understands what they're building and that everybody agrees. But most importantly, you want to make your users happy. This is the job of a PM, to make the users happy, delight the users. A good example of this is with Amazon Prime. Jeff Bezos, I've read a bunch of books about him. He's an annoying guy, but honestly, he's been pretty clever in the way that he's gone about things, maybe not ethical a lot of the time. But one time he made his the entire Amazon team just focus on one question: how do we delight the customer? How do we delight the customer? And the Prime team was able to come up with the ability to see, you know, when you're watching a video or a movie on Prime and you can see the actors in the scene. If anyone knows what I'm talking about, like literally watch a movie on Prime, pause it, and at any point in the pause scene, you will see the actors. And that was like the thing that really made Amazon Prime take off. That was the thing that gave them the best feedback with the customers. Customers were super happy. Everyone kept talking about it. Jeff Bezos was super happy and he lined his pockets even more. So these are the things that they might seem small, but nobody else is really doing them. Think about what other platform is doing them. And if they did, they probably got that from Amazon Prime, right? Because they could copy it, but that's a form of, I guess, that's like a USP of theirs in a sense. So it's just like, how do we delight customers? This is the product manager's main concern. So this is why PRDs are important. Now, another tip to just bear in mind when it comes to PRDs is that when you're a PM, whenever you eventually do become a PM, you'll find that it's very difficult to align everybody on something. I have never said once in my PM career, let's do this, and everybody went, yes, let's do it. You have to think of your PRD as your sales pitch. Like everything you're doing is to convince other people to do them. Even when I was a CPO, I couldn't go in and be like, guys, this is what we're doing, and everybody accepts it. No, there's always going to be at least 3 people who are fighting back, whether for any reason. Sometimes it's just because you're a woman. Sometimes it's because they actually disagree and maybe they think you should do something else instead of what you're proposing. The essence of the PM role is that you have no authority whatsoever. You just have autonomy, but you don't have authority. So your PRD is your sales pitch. Just think of it that way. So of course, we've gone over this in the modules. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. We've got problem statement, goals, user stories. This is everything that the PRD should contain. Any questions before I go on?
Nope.
Okay, sick. And then let's go to the problem statement. Now, the problem statement, just think of it as your, TLDR, too long, don't read. You have to have a strong problem statement. So it has to only focus on the problem. So you can't offer a solution in the problem statement. So our problem statement here states, someone introduces users only to, that's the TLDR actually, but someone introduces users only to truly compatible people based on deep preferences, no endless swiping, no app download until matched. This is literally the whole point of our PRD. The reason you need this is that some executives are not going to read your PRD. They're not going to be sat there reading 50 pages. Well, you should never make it 50 pages, but just, kind of get into it. So that's it right there. If your TLDR isn't obvious, your PRD is weak. So I added that little tip as well. Now, here's our problem statement. Today, singles looking to meet new people have to swipe through thousands of irrelevant profiles to find one that they might be interested in. This is unacceptable. Users want matches that reflect real compatibility without wasting time. This is my approach to writing a problem statement. It's standard, it's tried and tested. You don't need to do too much. So one thing you'll notice is that in product, we always try to use simplistic language as well. It's not like when I was working in finance, you try to sound as smart as you possibly can and, prove that you're the smartest person in the room. Product is the complete opposite. Just pretend everybody is an idiot. And it has to be understandable across the board for everyone. So this is our simple product problem statement here. Any questions? Great, because this is what we came up with last time, right? So when we were ideating, this is what we said was the problem. So then we have, excuse me, then we have our business goals, okay? So you have to think about, why are we doing this? Always start with why. So you've laid out your problem statement, start with why. From a business perspective, from a user perspective, and then what we are not doing as well. So many people don't include what they're not doing. They don't include non-goals. I think it's really good practice to include non-goals because it's very easy for the team to start drifting off and start trying to build other things. And we noticed that as well in our ideation last time. When we started thinking about solutions, we started maybe thinking too far outside of the scope of what we were trying to achieve. But that's fine to do in ideation because you're brainstorming stuff, so you can actually have moonshot ideas as well. So with our goals, what are our goals? Increase qualified matches, because if you remember last time, whoever was there last time, we said there was a problem with the quality of matches people were experiencing. How many times do you go on TikTok or Instagram and you see people complaining that the ugliest man or the ugliest girl in the world reached out to them to match with them and they took that as a personal affront? Well, that's not something we can control, right? But at the end of the day, we can try to match people who are compatible based on sociological metrics and based on what they deem is their preferred compatibility scoring. And then we can improve conversion to profile creation. This is our goal. What that means is when we talk about conversion, it just means what do we want people to do? So if we want people to sign up, then we call that a form of conversion. If we want people to buy something, we call that a form of conversion. In product, anything can be, you're just trying to convert people from not having done something to doing something. So it's about completing a task. So in this case, the task is to create a profile. And then we want to boost retention post-match. So how do we get people to not delete, there's no app to delete or not delete, but we'll get into that at some other point. But yes, how do we keep them engaged? How do we keep them engaged while still meeting our goal of actually matching them and not forcing them to have to keep being on the apps? And then user goals, we want to feel seen. We want to feel, we want the user to feel seen. We want the user to feel understood and thoughtfully matched. We want to reduce the overwhelm for app usage because, of course, we're dealing with, people who have a lot of exhaustion from dating apps anyways. They don't take it seriously. They're just annoyed by the whole experience. And then when it comes to non-goals, like I said, we have to include non-goals. Well, we don't have to, but I really, really recommend doing this because if anything happens, you can always go back and say, hey, we all agreed this was out of the scope of what we were trying to achieve. So we're not building swipe-based browsing. This is super important, or live chat rooms, or trying to increase app engagement. Okay, so retention and engagement, two different things. And, feel free to ask if you want any sort of clarifying comments on that. Any questions before I move on? Lovely. Okay, and then, for our user stories, we're now going on to, sorry, I just want to make sure that nobody is in the waiting room. Okay. Yeah, so for our user stories, what you want to do here is just write out a few user stories. I think in level 2, you'll start to see how user stories are actually written feature by feature, like breaking it down properly. But in the PRD, what I like to do is just include an overview of what that user story or what the overall user story of the PRD is. So as a user, I want to specify deal breakers up front, so I'm only introduced to people who match my core values. I think to give you guys an even better picture, what I might do is share my screen and show you guys the old version of Summon, just so that you have a better idea of what a user story might look like in this scenario. 1 second. We'll stop presenting and I'll share this page. Okay, Summon looks nothing like this, so don't even, don't judge. But this is what it used to look like, okay? So what you have here, what you'll be doing when you're a PM is your designer is going to design stuff like this, but you have to tell them what to design every step of the way. So you have to be super clear. So what that means is you will write a ticket, and when you write that ticket, it will be a ticket about a ticket with a user story, sorry. So that user story will say something along the lines of, as a user, when I come on Summon, I want to see information about it, right? And this will show you a landing page, essentially. You can't say build a landing page. That's not the approach to like communicating with designers or developers or anything like that. And we'll see more about this in the further levels. But the idea is that you come here, you say from the perspective of the user, what the user would like to achieve or what the user would like to experience. So as a user, when I join Summon or when I come on Summon's page, when I visit Summon's website, I would like to learn about what Summon is. Boom. Now you have this right person, right time thing. The contents of the ticket can then say, okay, this is a landing page. This is the text that we want on the landing page. This is the color of the landing page. It gets very detailed at that point, right? After that, you can say, as a user, once I find out the information about Summon, I would like to begin the onboarding process. Boom, you have this page. You have to describe in detail what this page is about. Do you get the picture? Because every single page, every single step of the process is essential to all of this. So